Welcome to this week's garden tour. If you're new, my name's Cassandra. We live on just under 3 acres in Wisconsin. We are located in zone 4B, and we're going to be doing a garden tour, an orchard tour, and basically a whole homestead tour today. So let's go ahead and hop in. We're going to start up here, up on the deck. We've talked about the rain gutters a couple times, so I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot today, but these are just leftover rain gutters. We just put these up this year, and we put them full of like citronella plants, some lemon balm, things to keep the flies away and the mosquitoes away. And I can tell you these have made a world of difference. Even in the house, we don't have nearly as many flies as we have in years past, but we put 2 gutters up, one along the side and one along this side. These are just full of herbs. We've already been harvesting off of these. I keep trying to trim these back before they flower on me and they bolt, so we're gonna have to come out here and do that again. But they smell delicious. Everything's great. The only thing I haven't harvested yet is these garlic chives, but I am going to do that in the next couple of days. We're gonna do some cooking with these. Excited about that, but parsley's ready to kind of come off again, so things are looking really good. I'm really happy with how this is, and I talked about it. I'm so excited for canning season when I just need to grab something fresh. I can just come out here and grab it. It's gonna be great. So while we're walking over the raised beds, we're gonna talk just a little bit. My husband is on week 3 of working out of town. He's been coming home for the weekends. It's a little bit of a drive, but it's worth it to be home for the weekends and see us a little bit and spend time with the kids and still try to help me run things here while he can. My brother-in-law is also military. He is gone on his like 2-week stint or 3-week stint, and before he left he dropped the tractor off here because he's obviously not going to be needing it running things where he is, and he knew that we could use it for some projects. So if you watched my little bit of a June update or like a June on the homestead tour, you know that the driveway went in for the shop and we have a massive pile of dirt here. It's like 12 feet tall at least, and we've been using that to add raised beds slowly but surely while my husband's home. So this is a raised bed that we got added over the weekend. We wanted to get the second one in here, but we just didn't have time to do it. But this is completely empty. We are going to be putting something in here. The kids want to do more snap peas and things, so once we get those planted, we're also going to have to put some deer fence around it and block it in so that the deer won't come in and eat it off, because they will. They've already started ripping what we have here and trying to get in here a little bit. They haven't caused too much damage, so it's not that bad. But let's talk about these raised beds. I know this bed looks absolutely crazy, but it's not as much weeds as it looks. It's actually about 90% carrots. We've got some rutabagas in here, and then our snap peas are planted along the edges. Here, our carrots are doing absolutely amazing. These are all different variety of carrots. We started coming through here and thinning these. The kids have been eating these like crazy out of here, so we might end up doing more carrots in the raised bed that's empty. But the fun thing about these 2 rows are those mixed carrots that I got from, I think they're from M.I. Gardner, but it's purple carrots, white carrots, orange carrots, yellow carrots. They're absolutely gorgeous. I've gotten questions. I posted a photo or a reel of them on my Instagram if you wanted to see what they looked like, but they don't taste any different. However, I swear the purple ones are sweeter, and some of my kids agreed with me, but I'll hop in here. The cool thing about these is you can actually see they're different colored, so you can see the purple ones actually grow purple. So maybe I can pull one out for you to see, but they're actually this really beautiful purple color, and they taste really great. So I'm so excited about these. The kids thought they were super cool, so they're looking good. This is a small one compared to what we had, but that's kind of why we thinned them out. We have more snap peas here that were planted at the same time over there, but they just took longer to come up. But these are starting to come up now. We have some trilogy bean seeds that got dropped in here, and they're starting to grow in here as well. So we've picked a handful of beans off of here. We have another row of carrots here. I can't remember what this variety is. And our potatoes are starting to flower. I came through and mounded these up yesterday, so they're ready to go. They're looking awesome, and I'm so excited about the potatoes. The rest of this bed is empty. We had spinach over here. I did do a second planting, but I think it just got too hot and it didn't come up. So I'll probably do a fall planting of spinach, try to get a couple more bags in the freezer for winter. We do eat a lot of spinach come winter time because we eat a lot of venison in the winter time, and I think spinach pairs really well with venison. We stuff it, we wrap it, we throw it in a lot of soups and stews as well because it's really easy filler. So we go through a lot of it, and I only have 2 or 3 bags that we were able to get in the freezer from our spring batch because we ended up eating a lot of it fresh, which is great. Really quick overview of the garden for right now. Joe came through and he weed whacked in between the rows for me. I don't even worry about weeding them anymore. I'm not worried about it at all. It is on my list this week to go through and try to weed our actual rows because they need it. It's been so hard to keep up lately with Joe out of town because usually we can tag team things. We can either come in here together and get things done or pass kids back and forth. So it's been a little bit more difficult this year, but our marigolds are looking really great. Cleo, my 1-year-old, hasn't been allowed in the garden a lot. That's why it can be really difficult to keep up in here. I have had all of my kids be in the garden from a very young age, and we've never had a huge issue with it. They've been a little destructive, but that's what babies do, and it really hasn't been that bad. Cleo is on another level. She will pull whole plants out of the ground. She destroys everything, and not her fault. That's what babies do. They're curious, they want to do what you do, and they don't know the difference between pepper plants or broccolis or weeds that you are pulling. They just want to help you, and she has a blast in here, and I love that, but I try not to bring her in here too much, at least not for extended periods of time, because she does really well for the first little bit, and then as time goes on, she gets a little bit more destructive. So I just don't let her in here for huge batches of time. I wanted to mention it because I get comments all the time from you guys saying, I don't know how you do it with all the little kids. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. And the truth is, I don't always do it. That's why I still wanted to get in here and show you guys. Weeds are weeds. We're behind. It's fine. Things are still growing. Could things be doing better or looking better? Probably. But this is a season of life I'm in right now with little kids. I know next summer it's going to be a completely different ball game. And this is the season, this is how things go, and you can only do as much as you can. Things are still growing, things are still coming in, and I am okay with that. So you can see this is why I really want to come in here and try to weed. Plants are being overrun by weeds a little bit, but I only had 1, 2, 3 cherry tomato plants make it this year. We see this huge gap here was all cherry tomatoes. They all just died. I'm not really sure what happened, they just didn't take. That's all right, but these 3 plants should be enough for us. So we got some tomatoes coming in and they look great. I'm pretty sure all 3 of those cherry tomato plants are actually different varieties as well. We started a lot together and then I knew that they were dying. So I went to my local greenhouse and got a couple from them and they didn't take either. So I don't know, it's just a bad year for cherry tomatoes for me, I guess. Some years I've gotten 20 plants and had 20 plants take. This year I think I started some, and then between what actually went in the ground, I think I had maybe 10 plants or 12 plants and only 3 of them took. So it's just one of those years. This row is tomatoes, and you can see we did get our extra trellising up. So that was checked off the list as well, but these all have tomatoes on them. I know it's super hard to see, but we'll come through and weed this and it'll be fine. I did prune a lot of these, but you can see like some of them are having a little bit of a harder time because they need to come back and be pruned again and they need to be weeded. I'm aware of that. I'm sure I'll still get comments about it. It's all right. I know. I would like to come back and trellis these up as well. I need to tie these up. But for right now, this is where we're at. They're still growing tomatoes, so I'm not super worried about it. This row is just more of the same. Different varieties of tomatoes, mostly Romas, some slicing tomatoes, Wisconsin 55s. We are in zone 4B, so I try to do mostly cooler weather crops. However, this summer has been something completely different from what we are used to. It's been very hot. But my cool weather crops are still doing really well, which is awesome. One thing that's never done too well for me is peppers. Last year was my best pepper year I've ever had. Other than that, I've gotten maybe a handful of peppers. They just don't do well in my soil. So I'm not super surprised about how my peppers are looking, but I do have peppers starting to come in on most of these. I have 8 plants here all the way down. These are all sweet peppers, different colors, but all sweet peppers. This is my first batch of celery, looking really great. I did come back and tie these. I choose to tie them with just tomato twine. I've used yarn in the past, and I've also saved the twine that they use to wrap my straw bales in that we get for the chickens. I've saved those, I don't know, ties, and I've used those to tie up things as well in the garden, just trying to repurpose as much as I can. But this year I used tomato twine because that's what I had. It just helps hold them together and keep them tight. We've had a lot of really bad windstorms. They were starting to blow things over. So I wanted to tie them up, give them a little bit more support to keep them together. It helps them grow taller, thicker celery stalks. They don't get snapped off kind of before they're ready. I already harvested one of my cauliflower and I just left it there to compost in place, but this cauliflower is looking great. If you're wondering why I break these over, it's just to keep them from getting basically sunburned or sun bleached. They can turn this yellow color in the sun, so if you want it to stay that really white color, I just snap its leaves over on itself. It doesn't hurt it. Obviously you can see these leaves are dying. That doesn't really matter too much. And I just keep it covered and then I let it grow. All of these cauliflower are basically looking the same. I came out here this morning and snapped some of these ones over that are just starting to peek through in there. I just kind of snapped them over to kind of, my cabbages are looking really well. I was kind of worried because we've had a really bad heat wave. It's been 80s a lot. It's been very humid and very hot, which has actually been very great. Things are looking fantastic. Next week we're supposed to have it into the 90s. So I'm hoping things don't get too crazy and things start bolting on me. But I've never grown purple cabbage before. This is red jewel or purple jewel cabbage, and these are looking fantastic. I'm really happy with how these are going as well. They don't look quite as good as some of my like typical cabbages, but nonetheless they still look really great. Here's our row of broccoli, which is always my favorite thing because it always grows really well for me. Brassicas have always done awesome in my soil. I never have to do anything crazy with them. Nothing in the garden is fertilized right now. I haven't done any fertilization, haven't put anything in the soil, just what was already here. And you can see how great like my brassicas are looking and my cauliflowers and all of my broccoli. We've already harvested a couple heads of broccoli off, but everything has heads on it right now. They're looking amazing, and I don't see a crazy amount of bug damage either, which is really great. I was struggling for a couple of weeks with really bad squash bugs, and I saw a lot of cabbage moths starting to fly around in here. If my kids saw toads or frogs in the yard, I told them to catch them. And when they were done playing with them, to come put them in the garden right underneath all the squash plants, by the zucchini, or underneath any of the broccolis. They did that for about 2 weeks and almost everything is gone. I still see some squash bugs, but not nearly what it was. So that seemed to work for me, just having the kids collect the frogs and put them in here by the plants, and they were eating the things that I wanted them to eat and they left everything else alone. So that's how I got rid of my squash bugs and stuff this year. Whole row is actually shallots. They're looking really great. They're starting to bulb up on the bottoms here, which I've never had happen to me before, but I've also never grown shallots. I have 1 year of experience growing onions, but these are looking great. I can link a video down below on what I'm doing to grow bigger shallots and bigger onions this year in hopes that that works for me. Once again, I know I'm gonna come through and weed these. I'm working on it. It's on the more heads of broccoli in here. They're looking great. How to see if your broccoli is ready to be harvested, you just kind of pull it apart a little bit, and if you can see it start breaking off on your edges here, you can go ahead and harvest it. When mine gets to a point where it's just kind of starting to pull apart, I'll leave it for a couple more days and just make sure that I'm noting it, I'm checking it every day. And once I can really start pulling it apart, you can see the kind of like bristles on the top of your broccoli will start to get a little bit taller. I'll go ahead and cut it and harvest it. But I'm gonna let this go for a couple more days just to get it a little bit bigger. But in a couple days, I think we're gonna go through and do a big broccoli harvest, and I'll show you guys how I preserve a lot of broccoli. Because a lot of these are really looking like they're ready. I'm really thinking this is gonna be the best year I've ever had for broccoli. I've never grown this much, so I'm hoping to get a whole year's worth in the freezer. So you can see here, this is a better example of a tomato that was pruned a little bit better, and I made sure I kind of got through the cattle panel early, but this is looking much better. We've got some Romas on here. lots and lots of romas, which is really great. I'm very, very, very excited about my romas this year. I've never grown romas, so this is where we're at. Some of them are looking a little bit bigger and a little bit better than others, but overall I think this section of tomatoes is looking a lot better. This was one that was up on a trellis early, and I pruned early, and these are just looking a little bit better, other than of course needing to be weeded. But you can see some of them are just looking much better. I've got some yellowing here. We've had so much rain, more rain than my area has ever had in a spring. Actually working against me a little bit this year. They're saying that out of the last 60 days, like 47 of them have had rain, and not even like sprinkling rain. We're talking downpours of rain. It's been a lot. So things are starting to be a little hard. I've been wanting to take the kids to go strawberry picking, but all of the strawberry patches in our area have actually made a statement saying, like, please be patient with us with all of the rain. A lot of their strawberries are actually beginning to mold on the vine before, or on the plant before they're even coming to full ripeness, just because of all the rain. So that has been our challenge this year, and I'm seeing that more in my tomato plants than others, but that's because they're also condensed. They're not pruned all the way, and disease is starting to get in there just a hair. That's where that yellowing is coming from. So this is a huge goal this week, is to get through these tomatoes, prune them a little bit. I'm hoping that tonight I can come out after all the kids are in bed, probably have to wear a headlamp, and prune these tomatoes and work on it a little bit. Anything that's diseased, I'm gonna get out of the garden, throw over the fence. Anything that still looks good, I'm just gonna lay in place and let it compost. One thing that's loving all the rain is the celery. Celery is a water-loving plant. It likes a lot of fertilizer, a lot of water. And once again, I think this might be my best year for celery, which I'm really excited about. I forgot to grow celery last year, so we didn't have it. I had a little bit of leftover from 2022's garden, so we had a little bit. We use it sparingly, so I'm excited to have endless amounts of celery again. I was looking in here this morning because we were talking about the squash bugs in the first couple garden tours, and you can see the plant has recovered very well from the help of some toads and some frogs. But I have my first zucchini actually growing here, which is exciting. My other two zucchini plants aren't looking as hot as this one, but the good thing about zucchini is they are prolific. They will grow a ton, and I might get everything I need off of just one plant, and the other two can slack a little bit. It's not that they won't produce, they probably still will. It might just be a little bit later than the other plant, which is actually totally fine, because then I'll have a little bit more of a staggered zucchini supply, which is always. My lettuce is doing absolutely awesome. This is another thing I was worried about in the heat, it bolting, but it's looking great. So far so good. This purple romaine variety has been amazing. We're loving it. The kids even really like it. Very good. We have some more head-like varieties there, but they're looking really great. We've been harvesting a ton off of these. I think total so far I've probably gotten 10 gallons of lettuce off of these plants. I've been able to give some to friends and family, and they've been able to take it with them, so that's great. Like you can see here that this plant, I cut this down Saturday or Sunday. Today's Tuesday, and it's already come up a pretty good amount here. This is something I'm so excited for. Last year I got a really pitiful green bean harvest because the deer kept jumping the fence and they kept mowing down my beans. So I think I got maybe one harvest off them. So we didn't really eat green beans at all last year, and it's one of our favorite vegetables. So I'm excited to have these back, but this is our trilogy bean. So once again, it's like our carrots. We have a purple flower here, and purple stalks, purple actual plants, which is gonna grow our purple beans. I was looking in here so I could show you guys, like right here. This is one of our purple beans compared to like a green bean. So you can see the difference between the two. I'm so excited about these. I also have wax beans in here, but I'm not seeing any wax beans coming in yet. But you can see the color difference between the wax beans and the green beans. It might be hard to see on camera, but the wax beans are definitely lighter. Very excited about it. Our regular green beans are at pretty much the exact same stage. I planted them on the same day, so they look just as good. I'm hoping the next week or two we'll be having a ton of green beans be able to come out here and harvest baskets and basketfuls, and I'll show you guys how I like to preserve those as well. These are a batch of onions, and we have another batch of onions right over there. I've been doing the same thing with my shallots, trimming the greens off a little bit. They've been doing really well. These actually aren't looking quite as far along as the shallots are, but that's okay. These are our eating cucumbers, our slicing cucumbers. I haven't seen any cucumbers on here yet, but I did see lots of flowers on here starting to come in over the last couple of days. And now the flowers are, like you can see there, maybe you can see the itsy bitsy little cucumbers that are starting to grow. I've never had a huge success with cucumbers here, so anything that I get off these I'm going to be really happy with. I wanted to plant onions in between my slicing cucumbers and my pickling cucumbers, just to give me a little bit of separation so that I knew the difference and so that my kids knew the difference, my husband knew the difference, so that way when we're picking and preserving we kind of know what's what, and I can tell my kids where to go for an eating cucumber versus a pickling cucumber. But my pickling cucumbers are looking just about the same as those cucumbers I just saw. Very little pickles starting to come in, or will be pickles starting to come in. Lots of flowers on the slicing cucumbers. Lots more flowers on these pickling cucumbers though, so I'm really excited about that. Like you can see, we've got lots and lots of flowers here still, so these are looking great. Our onions here that we talked about, and I have some sort of volunteer squash plant that just popped up. I've left it there. We're gonna see, I don't know what it is. It kind of looks like a zucchini to me, but it also looks like a pumpkin to me, so we're gonna see what it is. You can see some of these squash. When plants are yellowing like this, it can be one of two things. Not enough water or too much water. And judging by the amount of rain we've had, I'm gonna say it might be too much water and it's struggling a little bit. So this is probably my saddest looking squash plant, but you can see like this one here, it's actually starting to climb up these weeds and choke them out, which is great because it's trying to do my job for me. All of this viney stuff, I do make that a priority to pull right away, just because it will wrap around your plants like this and it can choke them off. It's basically like a plant's defense to take over this space and grow. But I was seeing lots of flowers on here as well. You can see maybe all the way down there. A lot of my squash look pretty much the same. Just like some of them are starting to sprawl out a little bit. So we're gonna see how this goes. Like you can see, some of my plants are taking up a little bit more area. They're getting lots and lots of flowers on them, which is always very exciting. Last week I took some straw out of the chicken coop that the chickens have been living in all winter, and I put those around my pepper plants. That's what I did last year, and I got my best harvest off of them. I did that last week. There were no flowers or no little peppers on any of my plants. And we already talked about my sweet peppers. Well, I came over here to my hot peppers and I could not believe what I saw because my plants are so tiny still. But I came over here and look. This is my first pepper of the season. These are cayenne peppers, so I have to wait for them to turn red. I did grow these last year. They never turned red. They never got hot. I just picked them and preserved them with my sweet peppers, and I've been using them the same. They definitely taste different. You can tell when you get what is supposed to be a cayenne pepper, but they're really great. And I have a couple more on some other plants. I'm getting more flowers. Well, you can see here's another one, and they're bigger than the plants in some cases, which is really funny to me. This is a jalapeno plant, and now that I'm down here, I can see it's actually growing very little jalapenos. So we'll have jalapenos soon, which is exciting. I'm seeing another one there, so it's coming to life. Our dill is absolutely thriving. Very excited about this. Over in the permaculture orchard, not much has changed. We have some potatoes over there as well. We wanted to experiment this year and see what works better planting potatoes. And the raised beds are over in the orchard, and by far the ones in the raised beds are much further along. The ones in the orchard aren't even flowering yet, and they were planted the exact same day. So it's also literally no difference in the soil. The same soil that is in the raised beds we took from the exact same location where the potatoes are planted in the orchard. So potatoes in the raised beds are definitely doing a whole lot better. We're getting a couple handfuls of blueberries, a couple handfuls of gooseberries every single day. Our raspberries are also starting to produce a little bit, you know what, I will bring you guys over there and I'll show you guys just a little bit of what's happening over there. We put in this pollinator garden this year. All we did was get a really big tarp and we tarped off this whole area through here earlier this spring. We let it sit for probably 3 months or 4 months, took the tarp off and threw a bunch of seed in here. This has been my husband's project, so I haven't shared about it, but now it is all starting to bloom. It just shot up in the last couple of weeks. So I just wanted to share it with you guys because it's really beautiful and I haven't shown it to you guys yet. We made sure that we bought a mix that was specific for Wisconsin native pollinators. This is exactly what we wanted it for. It's full of dill and cosmos and a bunch of perennial things. And you can see, and this is exactly what we wanted it for. And you can't even make this up. We also have a monarch caterpillar right here, which is another example, exactly what we wanted to see in here. This mix is full of things that the monarch caterpillars and our bumblebees and our hummingbirds need. Like you can see maybe a couple more things flying around over there. This is exactly what we wanted them for. It's also full of dill. So we joke because every time our living room window is open and the breeze comes in, all you can smell is dill. Like if you get just a couple feet from here, all you can smell is dill. So there's just a lot of it. So we always come in here and we smell it. But we're hoping that all these bare areas will kind of fill in over the years because all this is going to come back year after year and we're not really gonna have to maintain it. So over in the permaculture orchard, we planted some blueberries and you can see we are getting just a couple every day. This is Cleo's favorite place to sit whenever we have work to do out here. She just sits here and picks berries all day, every day. It's her favorite place to be. So we are getting a couple berries every day, which is something that I did not expect to do or to be getting. This is the first, they've only been in for a couple weeks. So very excited about that, which means things are being pollinated and whatnot, which is great. We did cover our plants with a little bit of deer fencing that we had just because the birds were eating all of our berries, which is something we did not want. I did come through this weekend while Joe was home. He cut the grass in here, did some weed whacking, and I hand weeded all of our blackberry canes, or blackberry plugs rather. I can link my video down below on where we ordered these from so you can see how big they were. I did a haul when everything came in. All of our different berries. We ended up ordering over 100 berry plants of different varieties, blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, gooseberries. We also put in honeyberries, a couple other things. It's hard to remember exactly what we put in because sometimes I forget what we put in until it starts to produce. And because we're only on year 1, or we put them in April or March, it can be a little hard to remember. But this is our row of potatoes, and I know what you guys are going to say. Some of you are going to say, well, these potatoes need to be weeded, and you are right. But we're going to get to that. This whole section here, you can maybe kind of see, we had this all tilled, it was all weeded, it was fantastic. We have 3 rows of corn growing in here, which are actually still doing pretty well, to be honest, for not being weeded. But if we come up this hill a little bit here, this section is where we planted or transplanted our strawberries, our rhubarb. We put in some asparagus in here, but there's a big but. We have found that we have an invasive weed that was brought in with the dirt when the shop was built. And we spread that dirt to grade it all down this section here where our corn is and potatoes are. It's called a horsetail. It is incredibly invasive. We cannot get rid of it. We're gonna tarp this whole section to hopefully kill it off. We're going to tarp it at least where we put all of those herbs and all the strawberries and probably our rhubarb, because we need to kill it. We need to get rid of it, and we don't want it to spread because we've already found it popping up outside of the orchard gate on this side, and it will overtake the property, overtake the garden. That's not what we want. So probably this weekend we're gonna tarp it off and get rid of it all. We're gonna make another raised bed. We're gonna fill it with our rhubarb and our strawberries and some more asparagus. We're just gonna have to start over. And that's the reality sometimes, is some things come up and you have to redo things, and it's always frustrating, but my husband and I were talking about it last night. I didn't want to do it, but I know it's the right thing to do before it becomes much bigger of an issue. Here is the raspberry patch. We have 3 rows, well, 3.5. We have a couple down there. About 3.5 rows of raspberries. There are a handful of different variety in here. We have golden raspberries, yellow raspberries, purple raspberries, a couple different red varieties, but I just want to come through and show you guys. These were just plain canes when we bought them. There were no leaves on them, nothing, just the sticks. And look at how amazing these have taken. This is something that really benefited from all the rain. You can see this is a row that I came through and was able to hand weed. I've been working on these kind of a little bit at a time as the baby kind of allows me to come out here. So this row is done. I started that row yesterday while she was eating some of the raspberries off of some transplants down there, but these are looking amazing. And what I want to show you guys is, look, we already have some raspberries. We knew that there was a possibility that some of these would produce this year, but we weren't counting on it. So anything that comes off these plants is a huge surprise and a huge blessing, and something that we're just excited to see. Lucky, and we had a lot of help when it came to putting in these raspberry plants. So I was digging the holes for these plants, but I wasn't actually planting them. So we don't know what variety is where and where it stops and where it ends. They did put the tags in, but some of them just blew away. They probably got buried, whatever. So we're excited for these to start to produce so that we can figure out what is where and who is what, essentially. This is one that still has the tag on it. So this is a red Nova. So I'm going to assume, because these came in packs of 10, I'm going to assume that the row starts here. It's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which would be all of these ones that have little berries on them, which would make sense that these are all the same if they all have berries on them. And these were probably one that would told us we had a possibility of producing a small harvest off of. My husband did pick up a berry specific, B-R-R-R-Y, specific fertilizer for berries. That's another thing I want to do this week. When I finish weeding these, I'd like to go through and fertilize these for him. That way when he comes home this weekend, we can just focus on other projects, because that's something that I can do on my own, and he can help me put in some more raised beds probably. But these couple plants here are transplants from my brother-in-law's patch. He said, I know you just ordered some, but please take them. My patch is overgrowing my backyard. Please just take a couple. So we took a couple really big ones, and he also gave us a couple smaller ones. So these ones are here all free from him. And we told him that once some of our other raspberries or maybe our blackberries start producing and they start shooting up more canes, he can come over and pick what he wants, and he can get some variety back from him. But we're starting to get some raspberries. This is the kids' favorite place to be, of course, just because all the berries. It might not look like a lot, but this is the beginning of gallons and gallons of berries and apples and pears and peaches and plums and everything that we have all through here, cherries and fig. So I have to show you guys this. I was walking inside and kind of just looking at things, but look, this is a red variety, and look, these are ones that we put in ourselves as canes just a couple weeks ago, and they are starting to turn red. How unbelievably exciting is that?